Hello there, good afternoon, buenos tardes, guten tag, good evening, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. It's Conor, I'm back in for another episode of the Carpool. Hope you're all doing well. I am just figured I'd come on this week and do another wee episode. Actually, it's not really a bunch of a wee episode, it is a bit of a bumper episode because I actually have a lot to talk about this week, considering the host. Bhoycie is away to Turkey for a wee hollybobs, and boys like Phil and all the rest of it have been, running on empty, doing show after show after show the past few weeks. So I figured I'd come, put my hat in the ring, and lend a hand, so to speak. So yeah. I'm going to get started on the show tonight. We're going to talk about all sorts. There is actually quite a lot to talk about. I've got loads and loads of notes. But before we get, stuck into the meat and potatoes, please don't forget you can subscribe down below, become a Bhoycie Bus subscriber. Like, share, comment, please. Let us know your thoughts, let us know your feelings. Share the bus far and wide with all your friends and family. Don't forget the sponsors of today's video are piesports.com. You can go down, follow the ticker tape below, it'll pop up in a second. Use the code BUS1888 at the checkout of the website for 12.5% off your order of pastry treats. And let's not forget the Bhoycie Bus members. You guys can become a Bhoycie Bus member for the low fee of $1.99 a month. That is it, $1.99 a month. You get highlighted comments, little things to put in the chat. We'll highlight your questions in the TNF, stuff like that. Also, bit of breaking news, there is a little bit of a bonus as well. The Bhoycie Bus podcast, we are releasing sticker packs. Yeah, we're releasing sticker packs. So we've contacted someone to get sticker packs made. They are currently on their way, and we figured there's a little bit of a thank you to all the guys and gals who are Bhoycie Bus members that we're going to run a wee competition of sorts and hand out some sticker packs to people who are and to become Bhoycie Bus members. So if you're looking to want to win a wee sticker pack, something like that. I know it's not on the same level as the Bhoycie Bus shirts we released last year, the year before. I do apologise, but my wallet only stretches so far. But if you do want to become a Bhoycie Bus member and be in with the chance of winning a wee sticker pack, you'll get multiple designs, stuff like that, multiple colour waves, and it's just something you can use as decoration, or if you're in your way to Celtic Park, slap it on a nearby lamppost to put the name of the show out there. Whatever you do with them, it's totally up to you. It's just a wee way for us to say thank you back to you guys. So if you want to win the competition, become a Bhoycie Bus member at the end of this month, maybe a wee bit further into it, you never know. We'll put all of these names in a hat, we'll draw out random names, and then we will then get the details of those, Bhoycie Bus members and ship the sticker packs your way. So if you are interested, please remember, low fee, $1.99 a month, gets you unlimited access, all that kind of thing. And we will then get you in the competition to become and win, a wee sticker pack with the Bhoycie Bus. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, I think we should get into talking about first of all the game at the weekend there at Celtic Park against Hibernian. I was there. I was sitting right next to the Hibs ultras actually. So I, was getting an earful and stuff like that. And you know what? I know they didn't bring as many fans as what they did, their Scottish Cup allocation. Obviously, that's kind of the point. It was a cup game, probably get more of an allocation. But a decent support, made good noise and stuff like that, and spurred their team on, even when they were kind of getting gubbed. So you know what? Fair play to the Hibs fans. Well done for coming and supporting your team. It's something we like to see rather than two or three fans sitting in that corner pretending to take pictures from behind a pillar to post all over Twitter and slag Celtic Park. But yeah, talk about the game. I feel like overall it was the way can I put this is it was an impressively comfortable performance. There was no point in that game, even when we went a goal behind, where I was feeling nervous, at all. And I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with the kind of the lack of jeopardy and the fact that the league's done, league's wrapped up, Celtic are champions, and these games are more or less just for pride at the end of the day and personal, glory and records for the players. But I do feel, the players and manager, they've obviously came out before and said that they do want to put on a bit of a show and they do want to, get as many wins as possible and win the remainder of their games and, go into, the Scottish Cup final on the best form possible, which is what, we all want. Which is, something I think we can all get behind, I know in Angie's, second season when we took the foot massively off the gas and we were going into games playing pretty shit and losing and stuff like that. We're a bit like, I know the league's won, but it's a little bit not great watching this. We're still watching the games, still paying to go and watch the games, still turning up week in week out in our thousands. And you want to finish on the strongest leg possible. Going into that Scottish Cup final, which we went into against Inverness, because the lack of form we were going into in that Scottish Cup final made it look a wee bit more like there was a bit like Celtic aren't necessarily in great form now, despite how good they've been. So, there's every chance that, it could be a bit of a sticky wicket in this cup game. So that's why I'm glad this season we're not taking our foot off the gas. We're putting it further down and, just driving straight towards Trophy Day and hopefully winning the Scottish Cup. I thought, Hibs, were lucky to kind of score that first goal. It was, a bit of luck. It was a bit of sloppy defending and the ball kind of breaks, kindly to Martin Boyle, who then, scores. And, you know what, fair enough. Good. It was a good way that Hibs worked it, but it was a bit like a pinball in the box and then it ended up at Martin Boyle's feet. He then puts it in and, Hibs going to celebrate with a goal behind. But I feel like Celtic did, really, really good work getting themselves back into the game, with that Nicholas Kuhn opener, fabulous goal, does very, very well, takes it in the keeper and then slots it in, and then to then set up the goal for Daizen Maeda for us to go 2-1 up in at half time. I feel like they did it was very, very good work, very, very happy to see, the heads didn't drop, no matter, didn't say, fuck it, the league's done, who cares, they're still playing for the badge on the chest, they're still playing for the crowd, the people who come pay their money week in, week out, or pay their season tickets to go and watch, the game. And because it means something to you. Like, if you're a person who, like me, who can't get to every single game because you've been on the waiting list for 5-6 years, and you can only get to certain games on certain days that you're off, and the tickets are expensive, ridiculously bloody expensive, might I add. You do want to go and see a good performance. You do want to go and see a win, because after paying your hard-earned cash, whether you're a season ticket holder, whether you're not, whether it's your first Celtic game or whether it's going to be your last, you want to see the team win. You want to see them perform well. So I'm really encouraged that Roger still has this winning mentality where it's you go to the bitter end and you don't stop, and it's very, very, it's quite comforting, knowing that and thinking that the players care as much as you do. You like to think twice as much because it's their wages, their success, their careers, carry on the line really when it comes to the domestic season. But I want to talk about Nicholas Kuhn. He's continuing to show glimpses of his previous quality within the last week or so. He scored a week ago, assist, goals, got a really good goal this week. He's looking back to some sort of similar, version of what we see with Nicholas Kuhn at the start of the season, which I was fully convinced was gone. I was clearly a fluke. That version of Nicholas Kuhn's gone. We're never going to see him again. I'm glad to see that I was wrong, on that front. I'm glad to see that, he still clearly does care because he has given it, to the opposition, to the fans, your fans as well. Basically telling people, like, be quiet. I've went through a patchy bit of form. But overall, he has actually had one of, if he even just stops scoring right now for what he's on, he will have finished in one of the highest scoring, highest performing seasons for a winger in the last 10-15 years at Celtic. He has actually been that good. And he does get a lot of shit, from me, from other guys, saying he's lazy, got the heart of a mouse, whatever, doesn't care. I think he kind of showed the opposite today, especially when he got into that wee scrap with Jack Iredale at Hibs. I was like, whoa, where's this version of you been, Nicholas? Where the fuck's he been hiding? Because he didn't date against Rangers, he didn't date, like a few weeks back, in other games, where's this been? And I think it's probably been a lot of build up, with people talking about his performances, maybe stuff he's heard in the media, maybe stuff he's seen online, and it's clearly got to him. He's got a fucking proof to point. And so far, he's proven it. Still a couple of games to go. We'll see how he performs, against Aberdeen tomorrow. and then on Trophy Day, and then obviously in the Scottish Cup final. But I am hopeful that he's going to regain that form and go into, next season, hopefully still being a Celtic player, on the back of a very, very good, impressive season. Ida gets a second goal, despite after missing a couple of sitters, and I know I kind of went in two-footed again on Ida last week, and maybe some of it wasn't merited, but there's such a you're like, where is the old you? Like something I was talking about there, Nicholas Kuhn's kind of regaining a bit of his old self. Where is the old Adam Ida? Where was he at the tail end of last season where he was, a must buy? Now he looks like, we've had our pants pulled down by Norwich for a guy who 100% looks like he was a third choice striker at a club like Norwich. Every time he tried, to get a goal, he's missing sitters. His touch was terrible. He kept losing the ball, and the crowd were feeling it. The crowd were bemoaning and going, "Oh, for God's sake!" and "Oh, Jesus Christ!" I could hear it all around about me, the frustration, and I don't think the frustration's bred at him being a poor player. I think the frustration's bred out of we've seen how good he can be, we've seen his highs, and it's about maintaining that. Because if he maintained the level that he was at last season, at the tail end of last season, we would have no qualms about the money we spent on him, about his game time, about maybe his lack of ability in certain places. If he was scoring the goals that he should be scoring and doing what he needs to be doing, no one would really have this opinion on him, to be totally honest. And the criticism wouldn't necessarily be merited. Now, he might still end this season on about 20 goals, which is a really good, a decent return for a striker, especially one that wasn't first choice all of the season, and hasn't had as maybe many opportunities as someone else might have had. But still, at the end of the day, your job is to put the ball in the back of the net, son. And when you're literally standing in front of the fucking goal, and you can put it in for a tap in, or you can, your goal's right there, you've seen you do it, and you just completely fumble it, you're left scratching your head wondering, what we paid all this money for. And I'm not trying to get personal. I'm not trying to belittle him. And, I do like Adam Ida. I like him as a guy. I like him as a player. Fuck me, I loved him. Go back, watch the Carpools and the videos for last year. It was a must buy. It was a must buy for me. He was the biggest signing we could have made last season, I thought. Because I thought Kyogo, was maybe gonna, like we've seen, leave and then, the form fall off a cliff. I thought he was the perfect replacement. And now he's came in and he's not set the heather alight. But, we move on and we'll talk about someone who last couple of weeks has just, blew me away with his performances. And that is one Reo Hatate. That game against Hibs, he absolutely ran the show. I think he showed up every single midfielder on that pitch, even Celtic. He was head and shoulders, the best midfielder on the pitch. He ran it. He scored a beautiful goal. Gets man of the match, seals the win, without a doubt. Gets an assist as well, I'm sure. And it's just he's looking like the old Reo Hatate. And I know he's taking a lot of shit this season. I'll give him shit as well. I feel like I give every single player shit, to be totally honest. It's just my thing. But I think actually this season will actually be his best performance season in a Celtic shirt for goals and assists. You look at it, break it down that way. It's quite an impressive season, to be totally honest, for a guy who's a midfielder, doing that, and especially one who has been kind of up and down form-wise, to perform your best in an entire season with your goals and assists. I mean, I can't really be that angry at it. Do you know what I mean? And I know some people want him gone. We're going to come on to that because there is transfer talk, and unfortunately, guys, it's not really about any players coming in the immediate future, even though it's not even summer yet. It is about players going out, and one of them is, previously mentioned, man of the match or the weekend, Reo Hatate. So Keith Jackson, Jesus, take it with a pinch of salt, by God. I know he's not exactly a popular figure in the Celtic support, but Keith Jackson is reporting a possible exit for Reo Hatate. Apparently, he's been making noises about wanting to, seek greener pastures and go on this new, football and adventure and whatever the way to put it. The way I looked at it is like he's not he's not shaking on the bars of the cage, trying to like be released, and he's not screaming, from the hilltops to get me out, get me any other club. I think he's just made aware that he would be open to offers and for looking at, going somewhere else this summer potentially. Because we did hear recently that there was a possibility Celtic were going to try and open talks, about getting him on an extended deal. And so far that talk has just went like dead, absolutely nothing. So I think maybe the writing could potentially be on the wall with that. But anyway, there was a story released on the 8th of May that Udinese in the Serie A plan a big money swoop for Reo Hatate this summer after they sent officials to go and watch Reo Hatate and scout him. So it's not the only, move on the table. There is, clubs in like Spain, France, Germany, those kind of leagues looking at him. And I'm going to be honest, looking at it on paper, like, and obviously Kyogo's went to Rennes, and it's not exactly bloody worked out there for him there. If Hatate's looking at clubs, what I go like, I know it's playing in the Serie A, and I think Serie A, all the leagues you could go to, I think Serie A is a perfect fit for a guy like Reo Hatate. The game's a bit slower paced, it's not as physical. I mean, Serie A just love transforming midfielders. I mean, look at Scott McTominay, Billy Gilmore, Lewis Ferguson. They have completely transformed their careers, and they're beloved by the fans and performing very, very well and getting all the accolades. You can imagine Anderson. And Reo Hatate's got it in him to go to that league, and I think perform very, very well for a club that's bigger or like more attractive this way than Udinese. To me, Reo Hatate could go to a Fiorentina or a Bologna or Jesus, even a Como under the tutelage of Cesc Fabregas, because I know he's staying there for at least another season. I think I seen an article about that today. Even though he was getting offers from Bayer Leverkusen, places like that. So he could go to one of those clubs, one of the higher end clubs in Serie A, or even someone who's new kid on the block, Como, who have impressed. They've actually finished higher than Udinese, or will finish higher this season than Udinese, even though they just got promoted last season to the Serie A from Serie B. So yeah, there is more than just this one option on the table for him, and I would, if I was his agent, Christ, what a world that would be. Would highly recommend to him saying, like, don't just bite the hand off the first half decent offer that comes your way, and I would say the same thing to Celtic. Like, we know we've got a gem of a player on our hands who, he's probably got more of a longevity, I'd say, than a lot of other midfielders. Because let's bear in mind, he didn't start playing professional football, first team football, until the season before he came to Celtic, when he was at Kawasaki Frontale in Japan, because it was playing in the university setup system, and then got moved to Kawasaki to play professionally, and he then came to Celtic the season after, where he'd won Player of the Year in Japan. So he started off a little bit later in life, so I got maybe a feeling that the toll of the game might not, put as much of an impact on his body. And I'm looking at this fucking like massively, like, in theoretics here. So he could maybe potentially play longer, because he's not had as much, damage done to him, as much stress, as much, impact on it. So, and he's still got 3 years left in his contract. Let's not forget that. I mean, Jesus, he's still got 3 years left in his contract. Celtic could be asking for, 15 million upwards, 18 million pounds upwards for a guy like Reo Hatate. And, it's nothing to sniff at, because he's a quality player. And on his day, alongside Callum McGregor, I think they two are the best midfielders in the country. No doubt about it. No one else even comes close. to those two guys when they're, when they're on their game on their day. And it's like why are Celtic getting linked with these like kind of like not attractive teams? Like Jeremy Frimpong went to Bayer Leverkusen, big move, fair dues, fair fucks. But we're a long cry now for like guys like Henrik, obviously one of a kind will never happen again. But again, moved to a club at Barcelona, guys at Liverpool that maybe buy the youth like Ben Doki and that because they see a bit of potential and go and loan them out for about 5 or 6 years and then get them in. But we should be saying, no, Rio, don't go to Udinese. Go like see if your agent will fucking chap on Fiorentina's door or if they'll come here or Roma or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Just the sky's the limit. We don't need to sell. We're the richest we've ever been. We've got potential money coming in from the transfer of Jeremy Frimpong when he goes this summer. If we qualify for the Champions League, that's more money in the bank account. There is more avenues for Reo Hatate to go down than just Udinese. And that's just the bizarre thing to me. I don't get why a club like Udinese. Can anyone name me a player from Udinese? And I'm not talking about all the wee fucking football hipsters who, carve out with the mullets and the mustaches, wearing like a vintage 19 fucking 10s, Udinese shirt down the local coffee shop, where you drink it at plant pots. No, I'm talking. Can you name me a modern day Udinese player? Can you name me anything Udinese do in the game? Not really. So why would you go there? Why? Like, what? Will you potentially get a move to, an AC Milan, an Inter, a Roma, a Lazio, a Juventus? Maybe. Chances are. Probably not. Let's be honest. So, I do think, if I was to be devil on his shoulder, or the angel, however you want to look at me, I would be maybe pushing him, saying, keep your options open. Now it's early doors. I'm looking at this like as if the fucking, there's an article just came out 5 minutes ago saying he's away. I'm not, but I'm preempting the worst, kind of, and in my mind, that's kind of the way that I like prepare for the worst, hope for the best. That's kind of my wee mantra, that I go on. We've got more to talk about in terms of transfers going out, and it is the other side of our Japanese duo this season. And it's Daizen. Christ, you think somebody in the family just died where I am being all depressed, but I don't want to see him go. The rumour is now that clubs like West Ham and Crystal Palace mainly are looking to go for a bidding war for the signature of Daizen Maeda, along with, there's interest from clubs like Fulham, Brentford and Leeds United. Now, the issue where I'm getting with this is not the fact that, like, he'll go. I mean, he's a hot commodity, he's a hot ticket in Europe. And, we're a selling club at the end of the day. And, we're never, ever, ever really going to retain our best players. That ship to me has sailed, we just can't, match, the fees and, the leagues and that these teams will come in for our players. Like, we really can't really compete, to be totally honest. Like, at least not now. The only way we'd ever be able to do that is if we went on some sort of, like 2019 Ajax kind of run in the Champions League and just blew everybody away and, really, really impressed and, performed well above our levels. But yeah, Celtic apparently put a £25 million price tag on the head of Daizen Maeda. To me personally, it seems a smidgen low. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Matt O'Reilly sold last season to Brighton for over £30 million. Broke the transfer record, I believe. And if you look at the two players, very different players, yes, okay, whatever. One's a midfielder, one's a winger, one's always going to score more goals. One was, came in, got the England like tax, brought up in the England youth and stuff like that. So, however you want to value them, in terms of where they go to for clubs. But Daizen Maeda had the season of his life, season of his career, and he has probably outperformed what Matt really did this season for me personally. He has been he's unanimously been the best player in the league, and one of our best players in Europe in a long, long time. And we're in a place now financially where we should be sweating these clubs out to take them for every penny they've got, because Daizen Maeda is irreplaceable. He is an irreplaceable player in this team. But the chances of us holding on to him are probably very, very slim, especially after the season he's just had, and the fact that teams are obviously going to be interested in getting a signature, and they can offer him, a hell of a lot more than we can in terms of wages, and then, in terms of like success, and possible like European runs, and etc. stuff like that. Which I've got my gripes with, but I do want Celtic to be a top dog in Europe again. Maybe it's fantasy land stuff that I want that to be, but I am realistic in terms of the fact that we are obviously miles off the mark in terms of that. But we have to just sweat these teams out, temper them got, like just say no 25 million. Sorry, so Matt O'Reilly for over 30 million last summer, £30 million minimum. And if we think they're taking a piss for the offers, we'll bump up. Do what Norwich done to Celtic in terms of Adibida. They were only wanting, I think, what was it, 6 million for Adamida. Celtic pissed about with low ball offer, and went, okay, it's going up. It's up to 7. It's up to 8. Okay, it's £9 million Celtic. Do you still want them? And eventually Celtic had to go, okay, yeah, okay, here's £9 million. Jesus, no more, please. I mean, it seems pretty simple on paper, and obviously it's not. Christ, football doesn't work that way, especially transfers and business and all that jazz. But you don't accept the low ball offer. That's business 101. You ask for the highest offer you think you'll get, and you go over the estimated price what you even think you possibly get, and you then work your way down. That's the way business works. You learn that in school, for God's sake. Watching the fucking Apprentice on TV, you can understand that. But I think we can all kind of get the feeling that if a West Ham or a Crystal Palace or a Leeds will say, right, Celtic, here's a briefcase for £25 million for Daizen Maeda, you're going to take it. Celtic wouldn't go, give us a week, and then we get back to you. Then they come back and say, no, you do it better. They'll be like, oh yes, please, Mr. Premier League club, £25 million. Right, Daizen, pack your bags, off you go, son. They would be like that 100%. They would, because it probably looks better on paper saying, "Oh, Daizen Maeda off the Premier League club after a star-studded season," than it does saying, Celtic hold out on talks over Daizen Maeda, his potential move, playing hardball and all the rest of it, because Celtic want to look as if they're great to work with and they're easy to work with, and they're not difficult and all the rest of all this shit, and just positive headlines about transfers and stuff like that. They don't want to be, they don't want to do the hard yards really in terms of the business, and they never really have. Last guy to do that was Fergus McCann. It's funny we're saying that. It's actually, was it 30 years now? Still been 30 years of Dermot Desmond being the owner, I think, this year. The absentee landlord. But I just find that funny, that article that came out. It's 30 years since he took over, and we're now talking about selling our best player, and one of the most irreplaceable fucking superhuman athletes that I've ever seen in my life, especially in terms of football, and selling him for an offer that, to be totally frank, a player even half as good as Daizen Maeda playing in a quote unquote bigger league, it would be double that. But because we play in lowly wee Scotland, and we're seen as a farmers league or the rest of it, we get these low ball offers, and Celtic will just bite their hand off for it, and I think it's fucking shite. We need to just I just wish that they would play a bit more hardball and get us what our players are actually worth in terms of the modern market. But then I say that Celtic won't even pay the money for what players are worth in the modern day market. They'll always lowball. They'll always maybe it's karma. Maybe that's what it is. But moving on, we will talk actually about our rivals because I can't go 2 minutes without talking about the wee teddy bears across the street. There's rumours now that the takeover is underway, as we all know, and they're looking at Daniel Ancelotti, Carlo Ancelotti's son, who is first team coach at Real Madrid. The tabloids, unsurprisingly, are making puff piece after puff piece after puff piece about this potential, appointment of their manager. When you look at it, it's kind of like that chewing the fat sketch. The two, the manager and the assistant manager wearing the same jackets, the same thing. We'd copied each other, saying the exact same thing. They thought they had that, but like with Beale and Gerrard, with the one's a brain, one's a footballing guy, one's this, one's that. Like, at least they've actually done something in football. Michael Beale, worked at Liverpool. Steven Gerrard, obviously a Liverpool legend, won Champions Leagues, all the rest of it, been there, done that. They're going to get in somebody who's riding the coattails of his dad, potentially, and try and, make this, the biggest and best sided of a manager that, the world's ever seen. Oh, it was at Real Madrid and he's coming to Rangers. Oh, look how good it is. Look, see me personally, right? And this is just me. Personally, right? I know, I hate them, I hate them, like, pretty much everything I've fucking got in me, and some more. But personally, right, and this is the way that I'm thinking about it. I want everything to go right for them this summer. I want everything they want to go for to get over the line. I want it to be as smooth as possible. I want them getting all the players they want, but to get bags of cash. I want them to, go into next season being in the best place they can be possible. And do you know why? Because see next season, see if we win the league, and if we go on and do a treble, and if we do not bad in Europe again, and if they then get put out of every competition that they're playing in, and they're fucking shite, and we pump them to a league title and a potential treble yet again, their well of excuses dries up. Where's it gone? It's gone. No more financial, oh, you got so much more money than us, we're financially unstable. You've got the backing now. Oh, but we've got fucking shit managers. There's a guy working at Real Madrid who's your manager now. Working under one of the best managers to ever grace the game in Carlo Ancelotti. Oh, but our players, you got to know the players you wanted. You signed them for bags of money. They didn't work out. Didn't win your title. The excuses go away. And we can then just look at brass tacks and they'll finally admit Celtic are the better team. They've always been the better team. Always been the better team. They'll finally have to admit it. And it'll be such a breath of fresh air that all the follow forums and all the crackpots of wanting the super scoreboard, they'll have to just finally admit and come to peace with the fact we're simply the best. So, yeah, that's that. We ran over. I'll now talk about the game tomorrow night against Aberdeen. Look forward to that. It's going to be getting a good look at them and what they're all about before the Scottish Cup final. To be honest, I'm not expecting much, especially after the performance they put on against Rangers, which I think was absolutely dire. I've seen Sunday League games with bigger potential and better players than that. Their manager, to me, to be totally honest, I think he's a total fraud. I think he got lucky, and I think he had a good strong Scottish core when he first came to Aberdeen, who probably took quite well with the system, played out their skin for the first good few months of the season, and did very, very, very well. But as soon as the going goes hard, as soon as the chips are down, Tillene and Aberdeen, they folded massively. And I think that's been in the cards for a long time. I feel like he came in, he had a good strong core there, good Scottish players, Shinny, the boy that's got Hibs, I forget his name. Oh, geez, the midfielder. Guys like Leighton Clarkson, I know he's not Scottish, but a British player coming in, plays well with Aberdeen. He's now went in the January and brought in all these like Swedes and Danes and guys from Albania and wherever the hell they're from. All these like leagues he's probably used to, and they're showing they're not good enough. The Scottish game is wholly unique in the fact that if you're playing for Celtic, Rangers, Queen's Park, Hamilton Accies, you need to leave yourself on that pitch every single game with the blood, sweat, tears, and hopes of thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans, or even just dozens. If you play for a team that doesn't have a large stadium, doesn't have a lot of fans, you need to perform to your utmost best. The game here is very intense. I don't think the Scottish game gets enough credit for how physically intense it is, for how fast it's played as well. And you need to, be on the ball because the referee ain't the best. And you'll get kicked fucky on the pitch. That doesn't go on in Serie A, the La Liga, Premier League. Christ, even the Championship down south doesn't happen. Happens up here. You need to be on your best, on the ball, all the time, 24/7. You need to win. You need to perform. Because us Scots, we won't stand for anything less. If you're representing a people, representing a cause, playing for people, playing for wages, which most people have never seen in their entire life, you got to put it all out there on the pitch and more. You've got to die for the badge. Whether that's at Celtic or Rangers or Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hibs, Hearts, whoever. And the players he's brought in ain't done that. They don't give a fuck. They thought, oh, it's the Scottish League, I can do that, no bother. They'll come up here and squish it. Typical attitude to the Scottish League. And when they come up, they get a hell of a fucking fright for how intense it is, for the demanded fan bases, for how insular it is, how small a country we are, and you can't escape it because everybody's into football. Most people are into football. And you'll bump into somebody, they might think, oh, you know what, I'll go for a weekend away up to Isle of Skye, clear my head, come back next week, and, go back to winning ways. Meanwhile, they bumped into a fan up some wee pub in the middle of fucking nowhere, giving it to them stinking because of the last performance he put on. That's the attitude that we have in this country. And his players that he's brought in haven't adapted to that at all. They sold Miovski last season. They let Duke go on loan in the Liga. He was one of their best players. And they just let him go. But I mean, it makes no bones to me. I couldn't care if Aberdeen get relegated or if they finish second next year. I don't really care. All I care about is Celtic. And I think tomorrow, we're going to go into the game full of confidence off the back of the performance on Saturday there. And we're going to turn them over. I think it's going to be about 4-5-0, to be totally honest. And I think it'll kind of just be like a bit of a precursor to, the inevitable walloping they will receive in the Scottish Cup final in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, looking forward to it, hoping to, continue the good run of form they are and finish off the season really, really strong, going into Trophy Day this coming weekend. But yeah, that's been Conor doing the Carpool. Hope you enjoyed this wee bit of a bumper midweek episode of the Carpool. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, visit piesports.com. Use code BUS1888 for all your tasty pastry treats. And also, don't forget, if you become a Bhoycie Bus member, or if you are a Bhoycie Bus member, you'll be entered into a draw to win a pack of Bhoycie Bus stickers, which will be shipped out to you when the competition closes in about a month's time. So yeah, if you're interested, become a Bhoycie Bus member if you so wish. And remember, you'll be entered in that draw no matter what. So thanks again, guys. Hope you had a good time watching the show. Any thoughts, any comments, any praise, any shit you want to give me, just leave it down below in the comments. And I'll see you later, okay? Bye.